Good evening. You're watching the news at 7:30 on ATV. I'm Edna.
And I'm Brittyn Clennett. Here's a look at tonight's top stories.
Police open fire and kill young man after he attacks wife with a cutter in Kwun Tong.
Public apology by Transport Minister and MTRC Chief over failure to reveal express rail delay on time.
Customs officers arrest 5 in crackdown on syndicate selling fake rice. A young man was shot dead by police at a public housing estate in Lambton early this morning after he tried to attack his wife with a cutter.
2 officers fired 3 shots at him, 1 in the head, after he ignored their repeated warnings to drop the weapon.
Police are now under pressure to prove that the use of deadly force was justified. ATV's Winner Wong reports.
The 21-year-old man had already been certified dead at the scene when he was carried out in a stretcher early this morning. His wife, also aged 21, left the scene soon after. The violent drama began at around 3 a.m. when the young man, identified as a delivery worker, got into an argument with a 48-year-old security guard in the ground floor lobby of a block at Hong Nga Court on Pick One Road. The man had apparently come looking for his wife, who had ran away from their home in Sao Mau Ping after a domestic dispute last night. He came in swinging a cutter at me, so I called the police, the security guard said. When they arrived, he was very rude and swore at them a lot. He took a wet floor sign and tried to attack officers with it. He was also swinging his cutter around. Things took a turn for the worse when the man's wife walked out of the lift into the lobby and found herself in the middle of the standoff. The guard said the officers warned him many times to calm down and drop the cutter when he heard 2 loud bangs as they opened fire. According to Senior Superintendent Eugene Yu of the Kowloon East Police Regional Crime Unit, the young man rushed at his wife with the cutter. The wife and a policewoman trying to protect her fell to the ground. Officers opened fire after shouting multiple warnings.
2 police officers had opened fire and fired a total of 3 shots. As for how many shots had hit the subject person, that would depends on the pathologist's examination at a later stage.
2 shots were fired by a constable and 1 by his colleague, a station sergeant. When asked whether it was necessary for officers to fire 3 shots, 1 of which hit the man in the head, Yu said that was a matter for investigation, but pointed out that officers were trained to follow strict rules on the use of firearms. Secretary for Security Lai Tong-kwok also refused to say whether 3 shots were necessary to subdue a man armed only with a cutter. But he insisted that police open fire only when necessary to stop a crime and always issue a warning beforehand. Democratic Party lawmaker James To, who heads LegCo's security panel, called for a full and fair investigation. He noted that the attacker had been armed with only a cutter, and there were many unanswered questions, such as whether officers had tried to use other means to subdue him. To said he was confident about the truth coming out, as this time there were enough witnesses and CCTV footage was available to study the sequence of events. The last time local police opened fire in the line of duty was on the night of 28th March. Officers investigating a report about a suspicious group of people at Sheko Beach fired 2 shots when they were attacked by 3 men with stones. The last fatal shooting was back in January 2009, when a homeless Nepalese man living out in the open on a hillside was shot in the head by a police officer investigating a nuisance complaint. The shooting sparked outrage among Hong Kong's Nepalese community, who saw it as a case of racism and the use of excessive force by police against a man who was not carrying a lethal weapon. But the courts ruled that it was a lawful killing. Winner Wong, ATV News.
The Transport Minister and the head of the MTRC have publicly apologised and taken full responsibility for failing to reveal on time that the high-speed rail link to Guangzhou would be delayed for 2 years.
But the two of them refused to say if they would resign over the fiasco as lawmakers demanded they step down. MTRC executives and transport officials were in the hot seat this afternoon as lawmakers grilled them on the 2-year delay that has hit the express rail link, also known as the XRL to Guangzhou. Facing the music for the first time on camera was the railway firm's top boss.
I want to apologize. We did not do a good job in communicating with you or with the public about XRL. There are no excuses. We understand our responsibilities for this public project, and we let you down.
Wilder explained that the MTRC had tried to explore different solutions to get the project back on track, and it wasn't until last month that it decided completing the project in 2015 was not possible.
We didn't want to let the public down, and regrettably it led us to wait too long in communicating. As CEO, I take responsibility for that in the same way that I take responsibility for everything that happened.
But that wasn't enough for lawmakers who wanted to know whether he would resign.
Do you admit or agree that there's an integrity issue on your part? And what do you plan to do?
I do not. I have apologized for the confusion and the misunderstanding that we've caused by not keeping members in the community informed of the delays. I do believe that this has been a very complex project. I don't think that the question has been the project management and the management of MTR toward the project.
Transport Secretary Anthony Zheng made a public apology as well today, saying he would take full responsibility and accept any criticism coming his way. But like Wilder, he evaded repeated questions as to whether he would resign under the accountability system. Zheng has been accused of a cover-up for claiming that he was shocked and dismayed to find out last month that the rail link would be delayed, even though an MTRC progress report had informed him of problems back in November. The Transport Minister explained again today that he was assured by MTRC executives they would get the project back on track, and he had to give them the benefit of the doubt. He admitted that he had been too trusting and should have made everything public back then. The Law Society unveiled its proposals for democratic reform today, but we won't be reporting it because of the attitude on display during the press conference.
Instead, we want to make a point here and show you how increasingly difficult it is these days for English news gathering in Hong Kong, our so-called world city.
What's the Law Society's opinion on the love your country, love Hong Kong requirement for the C candidates?
I already explained it in Cantonese.
Yeah, we would like it in English, please.
Sorry?
We would like it in English, please.
I already provide the answer. Thank you. You can translate it into English.
Customs officers have smashed a syndicate and arrested 5 people suspected of selling fake rice, low-grade grain mixed with Thai rice.
Officers who seized more than 300 bags of the suspect product believe that some may have been sold to restaurants and grocery shops.
Customs officers raided this Yunlong warehouse, which was used to store and package counterfeit rice. Officers said a ring which has been operating for several months sold the rice to households, restaurants, and grocery stores.
This syndicate is involved in the distribution of counterfeit rice to the New Territories and Hong Kong East region. They will mingle the low-price rice with the general one for the distribution to the customers.
The rice was sold in 25-kilo bags that resembled those of the popular Golden Phoenix brand from Thailand. At $300 per bag, it was $50 lower than the retail price, netting the syndicate a profit of $100. Lee noted that genuine Thai rice grains are longer. He added that the words printed on the bags of the counterfeit products are clearer and neater than the genuine ones. 4 men and 1 woman, including the mastermind of the syndicate, have been arrested. Customs officers took action after people in Shaoquan said they suspected fake Thai rice was being sold in their district. Residents complained that some grains remained uncooked or became soggy and tasteless if more water was added. Under the Trade Descriptions Ordinance, the sale or production of goods bearing forged trademarks is an offense, and offenders will face a maximum fine of $500,000 and 5 years in jail. There was also a food scare across the border, where a popular peanut oil in Guangzhou was found to contain 326 times more plasticizer than allowed. The discovery was made during a routine test. Prolonged consumption of the oil can affect men's reproductive system, affect the growth of children, and cause liver cancer. The product was immediately removed from shelves. Winna Wong, ATV News.
An air and sea search was launched early this morning for 11 crew members missing after the mainland vessel collided with a container ship south of Hong Kong.
A 12th crewman was rescued by a fishing boat and taken to a hospital on Hong Kong Island for treatment.
This mainland crew member was one of the lucky ones. He was picked up by a fishing boat shortly after his vessel sank following a collision with a container ship near Hong Kong waters early this morning. The 47-year-old sailor was able to walk out of Ruttenji Hospital in Wan Chai on his own after treatment for minor injuries. 11 others from the Zhongxing 2 were reported missing after it collided with the container vessel about 5 kilometres southwest of Po Toi Island at around 2:30 a.m. The Chinese ship was travelling from Hebei province with a cargo of cement for Hainan, while the 300-metre-long container ship registered in the Marshall Islands was on its way to Guangdong from the SAR. Hong Kong's Maritime Rescue Coordination Centre launched a search for the missing crew members, deploying 1 helicopter from the Government Flying Service, 5 Marine Police launches and 3 fireboats. Vessels were ordered not to go too close to the search area so as not to disrupt the rescue mission. Guangdong officials are coordinating the search and rescue effort as the collision occurred outside Hong Kong waters.
China has unveiled plans to spend billions of dollars to boost the economy in Africa and improve the lives of people there.
In a landmark speech, Premier Li Keqiang told the African Union that trade with the continent is expected to reach $400 billion in 6 years' time. Premier Li Keqiang kicked off his 4-nation tour of Africa in Ethiopia. He held talks with his Ethiopian counterpart before they witnessed the signing of a number of economic and trade pacts.
A number of agreements has been signed on infrastructure development, including Dreddawa, Dawele, Djibouti Port Highway, very big and express highway, which is also instrumental for our export promotion in my country.
For his part, Li said the cooperation agreements were part of efforts to improve the lives of people in Ethiopia. The premier went further when he outlined Beijing's policy towards the continent. In an address at the headquarters of the African Union in the Ethiopian capital, Li dwelt on boosting the quality of life for Africans. He proposed to increase credit lines to African countries by $10 billion, raise a development fund for the continent by up to $5 billion, and share technological advances with the Africans. Li expressed the hope that China will be able to help connect all African capitals with a high-speed railway network. All the initiatives, Li said, will benefit all Africans, many of whom are struggling to survive. China's charm offensive is also aimed at countering Western claims that Beijing is milking Africa of its natural resources while doing little to help ordinary people. Li's tour comes with a personal touch. For the first time ever, his wife has appeared in public with him. Zheng Hong, an English language professor, has been keeping a low profile, but by accompanying her husband to Africa, Beijing appears to be signaling that leaders' spouses will be spending more time under the spotlight. Still to come on ATV's main news tonight. US Circus Act ends in disaster, injuring performers and frightening spectators.
Spanish League wide open after leaders Atletico Madrid suffer shock defeat.